And we are live, or at least going live. Happy Coffee and Crypto, another Saturday, another Coffee and Crypto. And this one's obviously a little bit different than normally because we just went through a big crash. In my opinion, I'm not too worried. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to dissect the crash, what happened, answer any of your questions, kind of go through the flows of what's happening with the market, have some news to talk about. Nothing crazy though, nothing crazy in the news. Obviously, a drop is a drop and we just got to take it and deal with it. I'm going to first float out a poll there. So sorry if you're not watching live, but there is a poll in the chat just to gauge everyone's emotions right now for Bitcoin. Are you worried that Bitcoin is at 48K? Personally, I'm not, because we still have a lot of support. We already have the 4-hour chart here. So we're looking at Bitcoin and what's happened. So let's talk about this dip. What started this drop? We can decisively say, at least at this point, that this rejection here on this downward trend that we continuously been testing. So we tested up here, we tested it right here, we tested it right here, and then again we tested it, or just about, I maybe drew my line wrong, we tested it here and then dropped down. We held, right? We held a lot of support. We really tried here at this level, and we'll take a look when we look at the daily candle. We tried really hard to hold at 52,000. The second that broke through, the floor just dropped from under us. After that, we went down and hit all the way down to 42, the good old trusty 42,000 right down here. Ended up bouncing back up, and this was within minutes. I was watching the minute chart at the time. I was watching it live. It was insane to see go right down to 42,000 and then bump back up. It's not like too off of 42,000. Looks like we're having some buffering issues. So let me just see. How is the video on the stream? Hey, Natural Canadian, how are you? Sunday in Crypto. I'm just looking. I don't see that I'm dropping any frames, so I'm assuming that I'm good, but please let me know how is the quality, because YouTube's telling me that things are messing up. But it could just be on my end, so we might be okay. But let me know in chat. So overall, we hit that 42,000. We again hit that line of support at 42,000, bumped back up, and now we're trading at around 48,000. I'll get this out of the way. Am I worried? That's probably one of the first things that people would ask. Am I worried about what's happened? No, obviously not. If you know me, you know that market dips like this don't stress me out. They don't phase me in any way. I look at these as buying opportunities. I bought some tokens last night. I bought a little bit of Solana. I'm not buying Bitcoin because I bought enough Bitcoin. I'm good with Bitcoin. So I packed some altcoins that look to be on good prices. Not that Solana was an incredibly low price, but I mean, it wicked down to 160, 170. So definitely wicked down. It's a little choppy. Okay. So let's figure out what's going on here. Bear with me here one moment. Okay. Video is not good. All right. Give me 1 second here. Let me figure out how I can change this. Okay. It's buffing a lot. Stream output. Recording, streaming. Okay, let's switch that down to 4,000. Hit apply. All right, let's see if things are going to get better. We can hear you, but choppy. Okay, no worries. I keep freezing. Okay, we're gonna give it a second here. I'll restart my spiel. I'm lowering down my my bitrate, so let's hopefully see that fixes things. If not, we might need to restart the stream, but just give me a moment. I'm not seeing YouTube give me any indication. Sorry, guys. Video is not receiving enough. Not receiving enough. Okay, frozen now. But you guys can hear me, right? Do I need to? Huh. Okay, we are going back up. Hopefully things kick on. We're going to give it a moment. Make sure nothing's buffering. give this a second here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let me know how the video quality is now. Is it chopping? Is it lagging? I don't see anything right now. I'm seeing excellent condition on YouTube. So give me something in the chat. Just make sure that everything's okay, and then I'll start over. So don't worry about if you didn't see anything or anything. We'll go through the charts again. Just give me some sort of notification, something in the chat that you guys can hear me, and then we're not chopping out. We'll give it a second here until I get some sort of sign of life here. It's better now? Okay. Is it better, or is it like fixed? Is it good? Awesome. Okay, so let's start that from the beginning. Still a little bit choppy and laggy, better than before. Okay. Well, let's hope that it clears up a little bit, because I just brought down the bit rate a hell of a ton. I had it set for recording, so I had it like way high. I must have forgot it at that point. So, okay, let's go back from the beginning. Bitcoin, obviously, so let's dissect this drop here. Bitcoin's been fighting with this downwards trend going through. We've been rejected on this downwards trend when we tested it. So we tested it up here, we tested it here, we also tested it here, and then again, we finally tested it here, when at this point, this is where it dropped. Now, what's incredible about that is we hit our benchmark of 42,000. We hit that line of support, held pretty well there, and then bounced up. Now we're trading at around 48,000. So 42 has held again as line of support, as it did back in May. And again, 52 did hold some support, right? So we did hold at 52. You can even see that for the 4-hour candle, where that candle closed. It closed below the 42, and as soon as that closed, the floor just fell from under us. And then at that point, it went right down to 42. So still had a lot of support at 52. I'm assuming that 52, the longer that we're below 52, it's going to cause some resistance, so we're going to have a little bit of trouble getting above the 52, but it's not undoable. We've done things like this before. We've had massive drops like this, especially back here in May. This is very, very similar to what we saw here, maybe even more of a drop just looking at it visually from here. But at the same time, you know, it's I'm not going to diminish the size of this drop. It's a big drop, but at the same time, I'm not worried too much. How's it going, Kyle? I saw you on Twitter and everything, so hopefully you're not Twitter for the YouTube post comments. I've been tweeting a little bit all last night, so if you wanted to check that out, Haas Hodls, I was tweeting all through the drop here, made some comments. We're going to talk about a lot of this stuff today, but definitely follow my Twitter and help me out there, especially if you use Twitter. If you don't, I mean, still follow, help out the numbers. So in the grand scheme of things, like, what are we talking about for Bitcoin? How worried are we that we're going to say, if we're trusting Alex Becker, for example, say he says the market peak was 69K and we're going down. I mean, Alex Becker said that the market peak was 64K back in May, right? The market peak is just going to keep moving for these people. We have a lot of support at 42,000 and above that. We also have a lot of support below 42,000. Also, if you guys don't see, there is a poll in the chat. You can go and just comment whether or not you're worried about Bitcoin being at 48K, but yeah, not worried. Exactly, man. It's nothing to worry about, and especially right now, it's definitely a good buying opportunity for a lot of tokens. I was up last night watching that minute by minute. I caught a nice buy on Solana. Solana dropped down to the 170 range. I think I bought it for like 180, somewhere around there. Everything was really, really quick, so I had to go quick. Polkadot is sitting at $28. Like, that is a steal. If you're not looking at these prices as some sort of fire sale, I don't know what to tell you. Especially, we've been talking brunch with Oz. Exactly. I have Tim Hortons this time. Not Circle K, so we're not going budget today. Even though the market dropped, we should be going budget, right? At the end of the day, if you're not looking at this as a fire sale, there's something wrong, because right now there's nothing saying that the market is over, that the market cycle is over. When you look at things like the grand scheme of things and the grand scheme of Bitcoin, you know, just a couple of months ago, or even a year ago or whatever, Bitcoin was under 30K, right? And now we're still above 40, we're trading at 48K. Can we not maybe make a move above 52K? and then continue on. I mean, that's possible. Right now, we're going to see the longer that we're below 52K, it's going to cause more and more resistance at that 52K. So we might have trouble getting above it if we stay down in this range for a while. But this seems very reminiscent of what we talked about back in May, where we had this channel. We were working through that channel. Actually, the channel was 32 and 42. But still, right now we have a channel. We've held support pretty well at 42,000. Can we see 42,000 again? I think it's definitely possible. Can we break below 42,000? That's a little less likely, but it's still very possible. But at the same token, it's equally as possible for us to trade within this channel and eventually make our way up. There's a lot of health in the market in terms of some altcoins and a lot of things on sale. ADA is down to 139, dropped down all the way to $1.20, holding up a lot of support at that $1.20 range. So we can see here, that's basically where it was trading back before in the March, May, April kind of zone. Ethereum didn't really drop all that much. We did get that drop, like that capitulation drop, but Ethereum's been trading at this basically for the last week or so, the last month or so. So really nothing much has happened with Ethereum. If a lot of people held a lot of Ethereum, their portfolios haven't moved that much. Actually, I mine in Ethereum, so I was able to buy Solana with Ethereum, which was great because Ethereum dropped a little bit, but in comparison to Solana and Ethereum, I was able to get a pretty nice deal on my purchase, which is amazing. So right now, it's definitely looking at a couple of tokens, making sure that you're making your buys, and just focusing on where we could look at the market going in the near future. Again, I wouldn't be too terribly worried about everything, but there's a lot of fear going on in the market. Like right now, we're sitting and trading in extreme fear at this point with the fear and greed index. So I get that the sentiment for a lot of people is probably more on the fear-oriented side, especially depending on which YouTubers they watch or which media that they're watching, because a lot of people can think that there's a lot of issues, that the market peak's coming, or the new COVID variant is going to dip the markets. I think there's a lot of things that we need to keep in perspective, but at the end of the day, when we zoom out on a macro level, Bitcoin's actually not looking that bad. We're still holding a lot of support, and we're better off than May. Could we drop further? Could it get worse? Anything's possible, but we're going to wait and see. We're not going to assume that it is going to get worse. The one big thing that I wanted to point out is 24 hours. In the 24-hour time span, we've had $2.52 billion of liquidations. 2.52 billion. That's a massive number. Now, that's not as huge as back in May. I think the number was something like 3.2, could have been even a little bit more. So I know the number was pretty raunchy in May, but $2.5 billion is not a little bit of money. A lot of people got liquidated, and a lot of people were over leveraged, not expecting this. Market whales have sold a lot of Bitcoins, probably assuming that the price was going to go lower to buy in at a lower price. So I wouldn't look at it as a FUD signal. I'd look at it as they're trying to offload to pick up at a lower price. This is my Black Friday deal. Exactly, man. Exactly. This is a Black Friday deal. Some people buy Xboxes. Some people buy, Beats headphones. Some people buy clothes. We're out here buying crypto. And that's just what it is. When you focus on that and when you realize the long-term perspective of cryptocurrency, where these markets are going to go, these dips don't really phase you that much, and they get you excited, in fact, right? Like I got really, really excited when I saw Solana under $200. I got really excited seeing some of these prices. Right now, I'm getting a little excited on Polkadot, because Polkadot, I just put a bunch on the crowd loan. Akala crowd loan, which we're going to have the Akala system shortly, as soon as the deployment is done. But I think that's within a couple of weeks. I'll check in on that and get you guys an update. We have the PolkaSwap parachain auction going live on Kusama, so a lot of health there. But I just put up a lot of Polkadot in the crowd loan. Well, not a lot, a chunk of Polkadot. Either way, $28. $28 is a good price for Polkadot. I think, Jeff, it might have been you, it might have been somebody else that bought Polkadot. Either way, $28 is a steal for Polkadot. Definitely can go higher. Definitely hit all-time highs, and we are still looking at ending the market cycle somewhere in the 150 range. So there's a lot of hopefulness in the market right now, and a lot of buying opportunities at this point to pick up some coins. Again, I wouldn't be blowing everything on here, because if hypothetically Bitcoin does capitulate down, does make it down to 42K, and does break under the 42K, it could be pretty bearish in the near term. We could have some bearish weeks, but also this is something that we talked about. So a tweet that I put out last night, we'll just zoom out to it. So I had mentioned in a couple of live streams and a couple of videos, Raoul Pal had mentioned that we could see an emotional sell-off in December. Now, I'm not thinking that this is that emotional sell-off. I'm thinking this could spark that emotional sell-off. Whereas everyone looks at this drop and thinks, oh no, crypto is going to capitulate down. It is going to drop all the way down, and I need to sell my bags and get out. And this is what happened back in 2017. Every December, the market's going to drop. It's these narratives that aren't based in reality, but people believe them. So Raoul Pal thinks that we will see an emotional sell-off in December due to this, which it could cause something like an emotional sell-off. I'm worried to sell off in tech stocks. I'm worried that the sell-off in tech stocks isn't over. Feels like we're risking, or feels like we're in a risk-off market for a while. Do I think that tech stocks will sell-off is almost over? Okay, so here's my hot take about tech stocks, right? Like, if we look at, it depends on which stocks we're talking about. If we're talking about like something like Tesla, everyone knows Tesla. A lot of people probably own Tesla. I mean, like, Tesla's overvalued. They haven't hit earnings at all. I mean, they're a good company. EV is the future. I'm invested in EV. I'm invested in Tesla, but it's not worth the value. If we're looking at like a tech stock like Nvidia, that's a little bit of a different deal, because we're looking at like huge shortages on microchips and everything else. The computing power for GPUs are getting better and better. Nvidia overall is an amazing company. It's a great tech stock. If even if we do see a market drop, I think you're only going to see it in the inflated stocks. Is something like Apple inflated? Well, it could look like that, but it's not. Apple has a lot of things coming down the pipeline. I'm not an Apple user. I have Samsung. I don't care for Apple. I'm not part of the Apple cult. I hate MacBooks. But you can't deny that they have a brand following. They have a huge cult following. And on top of that, they're looking at things like the Apple Car and everything else. When you're looking at like the general big tech stocks, I don't think you have much to worry about a giant sell-off. But overall, the market itself is overvalued. Now, I want to put this with a caveat that I'm looking for a total. Here, we'll bring up the Dow Jones. I'm looking for a total market sell-off on the stock market entirely, not just tech stocks itself. I think the overall market for the stock market has been generally inflated since the March drop right around here. And the reason why I say that is because of the rampant money printing and where that money goes. Typically, that money goes into loans to corporations, then goes into equities, right? Whether that be stock buybacks or whatever. I think Boeing was one of the biggest stock buybacks during the pandemic. There was I could be completely wrong in saying that. I think I heard that, but I'm not sure right now that I would be looking to liquidate some of my tech stocks, especially things like Nvidia, for example. Some things I might not be as confident about, like who knows what's going to happen with Tesla being at the price that it is, not making profits. But at the end of the day, we know where Tesla's going to go, and it's overall EV cars are the future. So you got to keep that in mind. I'm not looking to sell anything, but it could impact where we're looking in terms of the cryptocurrency markets. So absolutely, what happens in equities, we march to the same drum, which is also something to keep in mind. I don't know what Monday is going to look like. Monday could be a shit show, right? And really, Monday is going to be what determines what happens for Bitcoin, because over the weekend, I could tell you with some sort of confidence, nothing's going to happen. We're going to trade level. We're going to be around 48K. We're not going to get above 50K. We're not going to get above 52. We're not going to get below 45. We're going to stay in this zone, and we're going to see what happens when markets open on Monday. and see how that works. But one thing to keep in mind, one big thing to keep in mind, and Tesla is way too strong to make a huge drop. Even if it does drop, it's only going to be a couple $100. Overall, long term, Tesla's going places. But a good impact to both legacy markets and crypto markets, this isn't just a cryptocurrency thing, is when the DXY, this is the dollar index, when the DXY is up, crypto and equities are typically down, and they bleed against the DXY. Sometimes it's delayed because we had this big spike here and everything was still pumping, but this big spike ended up pushing us down. So right now, the dollar, the US dollar, is up and crypto is down. So it's important to kind of keep that in perspective as well. This is another driving factor to why cryptocurrency lost a lot of support here. Hey, Os, glad to join live after a long time. Hey, man. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry at all. Nice to see you again, buddy. But yeah, it's nothing to worry about in terms of this market. It's all a good buying opportunity at this point. I wanted to talk about Plan B and not the abortion pill. I want to talk about Plan B in terms of the technical analysis. The guy who made the stock to flow model. A lot of people probably know the stock to flow, but maybe don't know Plan B. Yeah. Also, the VIX is high, stocks are down. Exactly. So when the VIX, the volatility index, is up, obviously stocks are going to be down with that. So there's a lot of indicators showing that, and there's a lot of market pressure in the grand scheme of things. When we're looking at overall markets, right? Remember, the stock market is about 120 trillion, maybe 130 trillion. Cryptocurrency is about 2.3 trillion, 2.4 trillion, right? So put that in perspective. That's huge. So what happens in stocks directly impacts Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, whether you like it or not. You can argue with it. You can not like what I just said. It's true. So yeah, it is what it is. Isn't Evergrande back in the FUD picture? Possibly, Jeff. The problem with Evergrande, though, is it's too big for the CCP to let fail. So what I mean by that is if Evergrande goes belly up, that basically topples China's real estate market to a degree of like a far worse degree than 2008 in the United States, like a very dramatic issue that could ripple through the world's markets. And China has done a lot of work to get ahead in the global scheme of things, in the global economic scheme of things. This is all a monetary war with China. China is not going to let Evergrande go belly up. They're not. It's just not a thing in reality. The CCP already, like, it's already nationalized. That's what the CCP does. But the CCP will print money, do whatever they need to keep Evergrande going. So I don't think. Sure, it's probably in the news. I don't think it's actually going to impact markets in the grand scheme of things. When we talk about Plan B, he was talking and still very adamant that we were going to get like a 90K Bitcoin by the end of November. Obviously, that didn't happen. Still very adamant about the 100K before the end of the year. Still very adamant that we're going to see a market peak before the end of the year, right? And he brings up this picture in context. Now, I want to dissect this picture here on Twitter and talk about this, because he says, for context, this is the 2017 bull market. I would argue that fundamentally we're in a different situation. Now, I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm not saying that these dips shouldn't be emotionally removed from making your decisions, but at the same time, I am saying that he's a little wrong. And what do I mean by that? I mean that by, if you look at Bitcoin right now, we're not looking at an upwards trend for Bitcoin, right? We're not looking at a 2017 upwards trend here where we're just doing a correction for a couple of days and going back up. We've consistently been fighting for this point. We haven't been super bullish as we were here, right? This is just a constant upswing, right? So going up from here, as soon as we gapped out on this section, we just went right up. And now we've just been fighting. We've been fighting with levels. We've been rejected at levels. We haven't been able to push through. Our rejections typically lead to a week to 2 week long capitulations or consolidations. And we're doing the same thing again. So we could have another consolidation for a little bit before we continue on. But either way, these dips are fundamentally different than what we would look at if we were in a bullish time frame. Now, this ideology really is important, or this ideology really works if you're expecting a market peak by the end of the year. I can tell you with some sort of decisiveness that the market peak is not going to happen by the end of this year. It is going to happen, but it's not going to happen by the end of this year. At this point, I'm fairly confident. I think a lot of people are fairly confident that this is the reality. And then there's a lot of people on the other end that said market peak is at 69K and that's it, and we're going down from here, and we're all done. So pack your bags, see you next bull run. A lot of people are saying that. I don't think that's happening. I think there's a lot of analysts that don't think that's happening. So I guess at the end of the day, it's all about what people are going to think. But I mean, Plan B is not to be discounted. I think stock to flow is a very useful model. It's very helpful to reference off of the happenings. It's very important, but we got to get away from this ideology of 4-year market cycles, because that's not the reality. There's not much proof saying that we're going through 4-year cycles. Now, again, I will eat my words if by next week Bitcoin is below 30K. So we'll talk next week. If that's the case, then that's the case. But I don't think so. If you guys are here, by the way, there's a lot of people in chat, and obviously, because of what's happening with the market, definitely drop a like. Really helps the channel out, helps also the watchability afterwards. If people end up watching these live streams afterwards, just to get an idea of what's going on in the market. Now, keep in mind that through all of this FUD, we have people buying the dip. I don't know exactly who's gotten out yet. I'm sure Michael Saylor's probably tweeted or going to tweet. I'm sure other people are tweeting. But this El Salvadorian president, now you can say what you say. I know that there's a lot of shit that's happened in El Salvador with protests and people not liking that he's investing with Bitcoin. But you can't discount the amount of balls that this guy has to literally take the revenue or the reserves from a country and pile it into Bitcoin. Super impressive. The cojones on this guy. 150 Bitcoin after the Bitcoin price below 50K. El Salvador obviously buying the dip and doing things for the future of El Salvador. Getting a steal at 48,670. Again, this is a great buying opportunity for something like Bitcoin right now. If you are looking at adding to your bags if you don't have enough Bitcoin. I guess keep that in mind. Me, I'm more focused on altcoins because I feel like I'm pretty happy with my Bitcoin reserves. Do I think we're in a housing bubble for North America, or that housing is such a pivot market? Where are we going from here? So it depends on where you're talking. I'm not going to make any mentions of housing market in the United States because I don't know enough. I don't think that the housing market in the States is a bubble. I think the housing market is adequate in the United States. I could be wrong. So please, if you know more, you can mention in the comments below. Maybe certain areas are probably inflated. Like you could probably think LA would be inflated, New York would be inflated. The typical big cities is probably inflated. When you look at something like Canada, we're in a bit of an interesting aspect of our housing market right now, where houses are complete investments. They're not based on whether or not you need to live somewhere. Like, let me put that in perspective. A couple of years ago, if I were able to get into a house, which I was trying to do, if I was able to, my mortgage would be maybe half of what my rent is today. If I were to get into the same house today, my mortgage is more than my rent. So right now it makes more sense for me to rent and invest than buy a house and potentially go through a market drop. We could see a market drop. And I think the market drop most likely will come in the next couple of years when the inflation goes up and the interest rates start going up, because that's when we start getting defaults. Once we start getting defaults because of inflation, because of the interest rates going up, people can't afford to buy food, people can't afford to do all the things that they need to do, and on top of that, pick up an extra 2% on their mortgage, right? That's a huge amount if any interest rates go up like that. And we are heading into that. We are talking about interest rates going up. We're now away from the going into negative interest rates or zero interest rates that we had back with COVID. Now it's time that the governments and the central banks are trying to increase interest rates with inflation, right? With the dramatic inflation. I watched Jerome Powell just the other day saying that inflation will most likely be persistent over the next couple of years, and that's going to be tagged on by things like supply shortages and everything else. Now, how that correlates is generally how people buy their homes or live. If you have a family and you have to pay an extra $300 or $100 a month on food, that cuts into other costs, and then your interest rates go up on your mortgage payments and everything else. Then that starts dipping the market. The only saving grace for it's transitory, bro. I swear it's transitory. The only thing that is a saving grace in some capacity, it's not really, but housing markets right now are highly speculative investment assets. They are not bought for living in. And the reason why I say that is because the amount of housing prices right now have priced out local communities, and it's no longer local people buying houses, it's all foreign investors. So when you look at that, foreign investors could prop up our market. The Canadian housing market is fairly solid, so I can't see a drop like 2008, but could the housing market go through something like a 25% correction? I think that might be possible. That might be dramatic for some people. Some people might say that's a little too little. For me, and I'll say this personally, and I'm not giving financial advice or anything, and I already see Sodium kind of going into that area. To get more money for housing, I guess so. But for me, crypto, in my opinion, seems more of a sure shot for my money than a house right now. If I were to buy a house, it'd strictly be just to live. I wouldn't buy a house for an investment purposes. The only way that I would do that is if I bought a duplex and rented out the other side for an income, right? That I would do. I'd do that in a heartbeat. But right now, I wouldn't just sell crypto to fund a down payment on a house, because I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. I feel more confident with my money in the market than my money tied up into a physical asset like a house right now in this current climate. If housing prices drop, you know I'm going in. But right now, as it stands, I'm not touching this. The market's too hot. No, thank you. Whether or not it's a bubble, people scream bubble all the time, but they're often wrong. It's hard to bet against the housing market. It really is. If you ever watched, what is it? God damn it. The Michael Burry movie with Steve Carell, I can't think of, The Big Short. If you've ever watched The Big Short, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everyone thinks you're friggin' crazy because you think the housing market's going to crash. When Powell said he's retiring the word transitory, he said taper coming soon. The thing is, you look at some people, right? And some people are like Powell fanboys. Literally, I never thought that I'd say this. I never thought that in my time, someone at the Federal Reserve would have a fan collection of people that believe them. But people believed Jerome Powell saying that it's transitory. Of course, anyone with a brain knows exactly what printing money does, and printing 30% of the money supply, 30%, 1/3 of US money supply, printing that over the course of a year. That is not good. That is not good for any economy. And to say that inflation is transitory, as if it's just going to go away, all this extra money is not going to impact the economy at all, right? Meanwhile, have you seen prices on cheese? Have you seen prices on food? Have you seen gas prices? Have you seen used cars? Good Lord, right? You see all these prices skyrocketing. These are not the signs of a healthy economy. These are the signs of a dying economy. In Venezuela, before the market dropped, before Venezuela hyperinflation, they couldn't even buy a loaf of bread with paper notes. Dumpsters were full of paper notes, right? Money. They're full of money because it's worthless, garbage, nothing, has no value at all. The reason why Venezuela had such a booming market is because of that hyperinflation. When the markets are really, really good and really, really hot, like that in the midst of an inflation or in the midst of rampant money printing, that is not a good sign. That is a sign of a dying economy. So when we're looking at this and we're looking at our charts and we're looking at the Dow and we're looking at the S&P 500 and we see these hitting all-time record highs, whether it be Trump or Biden administration or whoever the hell, Mickey Mouse administration, it doesn't matter. When it's hitting all-time highs like this, there's a rampant printing of money. This is not good for the economy. People don't see that. The only safe haven is metals and crypto, in my opinion. The USD is not safe. Easier to set a sell order on crypto than to sell a house. I completely agree. And right now, of course, you could argue with like, oh, well, if I put my house right now, it's going to go 120K above asking or 200K above asking. And yeah, that's actually real in Canada. I'm not even shitting you. So if you don't live in Canada, yeah, it makes me sick too. But at the same time, a year from now, you don't know that that's going to be the same. You have no idea. You have no earthly idea if it's going to hold, right? And if it does, then great, I'm wrong. But sure, you held diamond hands. Congrats for you. That's just it. I would much rather have my crypto. I think back to Weimar inflation a lot lately, and it makes me bullish on crypto and afraid to stay in fiat. I completely agree with you. Now, one thing that I always say with hyperinflation and cryptocurrency, I firmly believe, and this isn't me like trying to like say we're better than anyone or anything like that. I firmly believe that us being crypto holders, we're going to be millionaires. I firmly believe we're going to do very, very well in this market. We're all going to be very rich in the future as long as we hold, as long as we don't make any stupid decisions. That being said, our wealth will be built on the backs of anyone in fiat currency. And that is possibly the saddest thing that you could ever think of. Because sure, we might be well off in the worst economic times of humanity. I'm talking about worse than the Great Depression. I'm not joking. I truly believe this is where we're going to. Could be wrong. Who knows? I mean, typically, if you bet against the stock market, you're wrong. And that's why I'm saying that it can keep going up, right? I'm never going to tell somebody that it can't go up. But at the same time, I firmly believe that things do have to correct. Every now and then we get a massive drop, whether it be every 20 years, every 30 years, every 100 years, or whatever. We've always seen these massive drops that drop us down into some of the worst economic times. And it's really feeling like hyperinflation, tagged with a lot of economic issues with the supply chains, with the lack of getting boats into ports, like all these crazy things that are happening right now in today's age. We're in a very fragile time with our supply chain, with our economy and everything else. So I think right now is probably the most volatile time to be alive in the last 50 to 70 years. I really believe that. Since probably around 1930. I don't think hyperinflation is going to get as bad as other countries. I think cryptocurrency is probably going to be the saving grace. And that's the reason why Jerome Powell is now so for CBDCs, right? Saying that we need CBDCs right now. I mean, this market was dead. This market was dead September 2019 when the repo market, the shadow banking market crashed. As soon as that crashed, the Federal Reserve has been propping it up ever since then, and just keeping the zombie market alive. That's the reality of the fact. The economy is already in the shit. So right now, what they need is a saving grace to pull us out, which in my opinion is the blockchain and is CBDCs. It's the obvious answer. So yeah, I guess that's it. That's my rant there. So go ahead and give me a like if you agree with the rant. But yeah, I think right now we're just in such a volatile time and such a scary time to be alive. I'm not worried about Bitcoin. I'm not worried about cryptocurrency. I'm worried about the general economy. That's more like what keeps me up at night. Not what Bitcoin's doing. If Bitcoin drops to 30K tomorrow, I'm still laughing. I have no problem. I'm expecting it to go way higher. I know where it's going. I know how scarcity works. I know how mathematics work. And when you think about Bitcoin, something like Bitcoin, right? We're talking about a max supply of 21 million Bitcoin, 21 million tokens, at least 2.5, maybe 2 million. We'll say 2 million, give it a low end. At least 2 million tokens are are not available, whether they be in landfills, old hard drives, and everything else. So let's say more like 19 million, right? Right now we have about 19 million in circulation minus the 2 million, right? So when you look at that, no more Bitcoin can be made, right? Why is that important? Well, let's talk about the biggest shitcoin. Let's talk about the real shitcoin, right? Some of you might be thinking, okay, he's going to start talking about Doge right now, right? Dogecoin. Look at Dogecoin for a second, okay? 132 trillion, right? There's that trillion? That's billion. 132 billion. Is that billion? Yeah, it's billion. If we look at Shiba, right? Let's go down to Shiba. We're getting into the trillions. 549 trillion, okay? The USD is the biggest shitcoin. The USD is the biggest shitcoin. It's always been the biggest shitcoin. There is one node, the Federal Reserve. There's one central body running the USD. Trillions, hundreds of trillions of USD is in circulation. Trillions are printed every month, right? The biggest shitcoin is fiat currency in the USD. Not Doge. The real meme about Doge, Sheep, and all these other high circulation coins, they are harder assets than the United States dollar. When you start recognizing that, you start realizing how fastly you need to get, or how fast is more grammatically correct, how fast you need to get out of fiat currencies, right? Holding equities is going to be good. Holding equities is always going to be solid as long as you're in good equities that aren't going to go belly up, right? When Apple went down to $3, I think it was $3 in 2008. I could be completely wrong. When Apple went down to that price, people said Apple was going bankrupt. They were going under. I mean, look at them now. Apple's not going anywhere. Apple's never going to go anywhere. It has too much of a cult following. It has a solid backing behind it, and it's always going to have a user base. And really, the price to make a phone is not that much for them, right? Semiconductors are going up, sure. Their profit margins on these phones are huge. So I'm not worried about Apple, and especially when people are just so... I don't know. I guess really like Apple that much. USC is made up of memes and dreams completely. It completely is. It's the United States dollar is easily the biggest shitcoin you can ever have, right? If you have US dollars, it's the worst thing that you could do. Even if you're sitting, right? The inflation rate right now is somewhere in the, it's north of 2%. Even Jerome Powell says it's far greater than the 2% expected that we wanted, right? It's far greater. That's what he says in the thing like 3 days ago when he testified. So inflation numbers, I think, are closer to like 3 to 4, maybe even 5% in some cases. We're looking at these amazing like prices, amazing inflation prices, and then you look at something like cryptocurrency, and it's obvious where things are going to go. But yeah, I feel like this is why Jerome Powell is so focused on CBDCs. They have been focused on CBDCs. I think cryptocurrency is a solution. And I think before the U.S. economy is going to drop, the Federal Reserve will come out with the CBDC, and that'll be the saving grace. They'll probably do something where you get a positive interest rate for holding USD, CBDC, whatever that is. Like they will pay you to start saving in the CBDC. Just to incentivize people to use it. And it's not that much different. I talk to people at work that ask me like, okay, if we're going to be using crypto, like how's that going to change how I work with money? And the reality is it's not, right? How do you work with money now? You have a debit card. Where's my debit card? You have a debit card and you go and you pay things and you swipe it and that's it. It's done. The exact same thing's going to happen. Right? Crypto doesn't change that. The blockchain doesn't change that. The blockchain just means it's immutable. The blockchain just means that it can't go missing without us knowing exactly where it went, right? And CBDCs are most likely not going to be anonymous. Like we see that with the digital yuan, obviously not being an anonymous token. Bitcoin is anonymous in a way, but as soon as somebody finds out that that address is your Bitcoin token, then they can see how much Bitcoin you have, right? They know that that's your address. People are just playing pretend with fiat minus the status quo as the circumstances accumulate every year, or consequences accumulate every year. Yeah, I completely agree. It's it's totally like a patchwork, right? They're just it's like you're driving a car, right? And this car's a piece of shit, right? We're talking about like a garbage car. We're not even talking about a Honda or anything. We're talking about like a Kia, like one of the old like Kia Souls before they did their revamp on their cars, right? We're talking about like 90s, maybe early 2000s. Just piece of frigging trash. You're duct taping things, you're duct taping intakes, your muffler's falling off, but it's still driving, right? Somebody would look at it and be like, that's a shitbox car, you should take it to the junkyard. And the US right now is looking at that car and being like, no, this is fine. This is going to get me from point A to point B. Eventually, that car is going to break the hell down. And it's going to happen, and it's not going to start back up again. And when that happens, what are they going to do, right? So what the US is trying to do is they're trying to have another car ready for that moment that Kia whatever is breaking down. And that's what's going to happen. It's an accumulative buildup of these consequences, of these things that break and then we don't fix them, or we just put band-aids on them, right? Like the shadow banking market, how it just flopped and we're just printing money just to prop it up, right? These are band-aids. How COVID happened and we instantly just give a bunch of corporations a shit ton of money to buy their own stock back, right? These are patchwork things that are just helping the flooding stop while we try to fix the dying economy, right? We're filling holes in the boat and it's taking water. Exactly. Completely the right analogy. And the more we do this, the worse it's going to get. So it's not going to get any better. When you look at that, when you have that perspective, right? You know that we're in a very volatile time for our economy. You know that everything's happening right now. Don't you look bullish at Bitcoin being at 48K? Right? Don't you see Bitcoin being at 48K and being like, damn, that's a good price, right? Right now is a good price. Do you see Bitcoin going lower? Sure, Bitcoin can go lower. I don't think it's going to go lower than 30K. I mean, I've been wrong before. I'm not like a god or anything. I'm definitely wrong, right? If it does break down below 40K, we have support at 30K. And there, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm not worried at 30K either. Why should I worry at 30K? There's a lot of support. We've held 30K a lot of times. I don't think we're going to get that low, but I mean, it's always possible. But in the grand scheme of things, when we look at everything and we talk about a December sell-off and we talk about how everyone's emotions are high in December, everyone thinks that the market's going to drop just like 2017. But we look in the grand scheme of the big picture that our economy is down the tubes. The USD is down the tubes. We're in some of the most volatile times. We're talking about the housing markets being investments instead of just buying a house to live. We're talking about things that are the signs of a dying economy. Supply chain issues, rampant inflation, and Bitcoin doesn't inflate, right? You can't print more Bitcoin. You can never print more Bitcoin. It is a solid asset. It's even harder than gold. The reason why I say that is because we will in the future mine, and I know everyone like chirps me about this when I say this. I know this sounds like sci-fi, but we will in the future one day mine gold and mine metals on asteroids. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds like it's super far away. China landed a probe on an asteroid. If you think it's unfeasible, it's happening. It's going to happen probably in our lifetime, probably in the next 20 to 30 years. We're going to start mining materials in space. Absolutely 100%. Especially the moon being the moon, having one of the biggest sources of lithium we could ever mine. And the fact that lithium does such an economic damage here on Earth, if we mine it on the moon, it's much easier. And then, hey, we have EV cars. That's our battery solution right there. I know it sounds far-fetched, but that is truly where we're going. And if we can just add more gold into circulation, Bitcoin becomes harder, right? Because if we can add more gold to the circulation, because there's an abundance of gold out in the universe, if we can just add more gold to the circulation, Bitcoin becomes a harder asset, because we can never get more than 21 million Bitcoin. When you think about that in the grand scheme of things, don't even think about you, right? Think about what comes after you. Think about the kids after you. Think about the generations after you. Think about the legacy that you pass on with your Bitcoin that you hold. In 100 years, your Bitcoin is going to be worth a hell of a lot more than it is today. In 200 years, it's going to be worth a hell of a lot more than it was 100 years before that, right? This is how this works. This is what scarcity does. So I don't look at market drops like this and freak out. I look at this as a buying opportunity. Because people should have expected a December. Yeah, I can. Let me read up. I expect us to hold 50K, seeing high 40s again after the dip earlier. Yeah, I expect us to make our way above 52K here after the dip earlier this year. Is a bit surprising, but I still don't think it's a bear market. No, I don't think it's a bear market either, Sodium, because people should have expected a December sell-off. I think that's true. I think people should have expected what's happening in December. Remember, drop a like, guys. Really appreciate the likes. Really appreciate the support on the channel. It's been great. Also, make sure that you're following my Twitter, because last night I was really trying to kind of keep everyone in perspective about what's happening. I was retweeting some other mentions from, well, this was this morning from Ben Cohen, obviously saying Ethereum was at this price last week, so why we worried. We had the liquidations and everything else, so definitely follow at Haas Hodls. I'll keep you kind of in the loop. Obviously, I do the YouTube posts as well and everything. So if you just want to subscribe to YouTube, find the post. I mean, fine. That's a-okay with me as well. But definitely help it helps if you support the other social media. So that's definitely a bonus. So we'll go over, just briefly recap what we talked about today. Kind of go through. If there are any questions, that'd be great. So first off, we'll talk about what happened last night in terms of Bitcoin. Bitcoin obviously had this fight with this downwards trend. We hit it. We were rejected numerous times on this trend. We kept on trending down until finally we got our final rejection here and then broke down. We held a little bit on the 4-hour chart. We held a little bit at our 52,000, right, which is our hard line of support. The second we broke through that 52,000, the floor fell from under us. If we look at this from a, let's say, 15-minute time frame, we can take a look. If you look at it from a 15-minute time frame, you can literally see the moment where we tried to hold at 52K. We fought really hard, and in that moment, boom, the floor fell from under us and we dropped all the way down. We wicked all the way down to our other support of 52,000. No worries, Oracle. No worries. Slept dead. See, that is a man that is unfazed by crypto drops right there. This man right here, fucking legend. So it drops down to 42,000 and then brings ourselves back up to 48,000 to consolidate and accumulate until now. So that's basically what happened, right? We were rejected on that downward trend. We made our way down. We tried to hold at our 52,000. We didn't hold at our 52,000. We dropped hugely volatile down to 42,000, and now we're consolidating into this point. Could we potentially, right? Because I still think 52,000 is a good line of support. Could we potentially go back above 52,000? I think we could. The longer that we stay below 52,000, the more bearish I get in terms of that. The more I think that we would need to consolidate. So if we were to say get up there by Monday, I'm still pretty bullish, right? I'd be pretty happy with getting above 52,000 on Monday. If we get above 52,000, I'm going to tell you guys I'm not worried at all. Let's keep going. The reality is, could we consolidate in this zone or even see numbers down to the 42,000 again and retest 42,000 a couple of times? I think that's probably equally as likely, if not a little bit more likely. And the reason why I say that is because we see back what happened in May. We see how we dropped down, and then we continuously retested that 30,000 numerous times. And I think this is probably what we're going to see just within this channel. I could be wrong. You know, I've been known to be wrong before. It happens, right? So, but for now, I think what Bitcoin needs to do is consolidate, find some new ground, and then figure out what's going on from here. Obviously, there's a lot of health, or not a lot of health, a lot of good sales happening in the market. Right now, ADA is down 10%, XRP is down 14%. Ethereum's not down at all, right? Ethereum's still holding pretty well, above $4,000. So it's trading at what it's been trading at for the last week or so. So Ethereum is doing fine. We had a pretty brutal wick, but overall, it's not that big of a deal. Then we have KSM sitting at 14% down almost at $300. We have Polkadot, right? I'm going to say this again. I say this every time Polkadot's below $30. Polkadot is a good buy. Polkadot is a good deal right now. So pick up, but not financial advice, not telling you what to do. Don't do what I say. Pick up some Polkadot. So it is what it is. We have the crowdfund loans, we have everything else happening, we have the parachains. It's all going to be bullish, and even if it's bearish for the short term or in the next month or so, it's all going to be bullish eventually. We have things like VeChain sitting under 10 cents. Like, that's a steal, right? That's a very good price for VeChain. So there's a lot of good buys right now in the market, and also things to keep in mind is the DXY, the dollar index, is up right now. So when the dollar is up, Bitcoin is often down, and equities are often down. So we could even see Monday being an equity sell-off. We could have problems with equities on Monday. So definitely keep that in mind. The VIX is up, so obviously equities are going to be in some dire straits. So we'll see what happens on Monday. I'm not going to be too bearish about Monday. I'm going to be hopeful that the markets are going to be good. But if legacy markets are down, then I don't have much hope for Bitcoin. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't like to look at futures that much anymore, but we'll take a look at the future markets this weekend. I'll be tweeting about that, and we'll talk about what we might be able to expect on Monday, but we'll see. ADA's on a big sale right now. Harmony is down just to 20 cents. Yeah, so if we look at Harmony, and Harmony did really good for a while. It was doing, do I have to actually type Harmony 1? Harmony 1. Oh, is it just Harmony? Okay, cool. Okay, here we go. So if we look at, wow, that's a pretty brutal wick, down to 14 cents. That's crazy. What a steal if you were able to buy that. How's it going, Tim? What a steal if you were able to buy that. But Harmony down at 20 cents. It did do very well until the downwards trend started happening. But we can clearly see the downwards trend kind of going through after the last little while. So I guess at the end of the day, the big thing to recognize is, hey, we could go down a little bit further. Altcoins could still bleed. So if you are buying things, I wouldn't be throwing the whole pie at it. I'd make sure that dollar cost average, like I always say, especially through these dips, take emotion completely out of it. Pick up some good healthy bags. I was able to get Solana at a steal down in this range here. Not crazy, but down in this range. Where's the best place to buy VeChain for Canadians since Binance is shut down? I think I think it's Bitrue. Bitrue is the XRP centric exchange, right? Yeah, I think so. Bitrue is probably one of the best places. Bitrue is like one of my favorite exchanges, at least in terms of international exchanges. So I'd probably say go there. And the reason why I say Bitrue too is because they have the Power Piggy, where you can stake your VeChain and collect VeChain for it. So I would definitely say Bitrue, in my opinion. But there's tons of others too that you can still work with. If you go to CoinGecko, right, and you search up VeChain, let's just see if VeChain is even in the top 100. Yes, it is. So if you search VeChain, click on the VeChain. This is with any token. Scroll down to here. So again, this CoinGecko, search up that token. Down here, you'll get a button that says see all trading pairs. So you click on that, and you can see exactly where that token is trading on every exchange. So Bitrue is probably the one that I use. It's the one that I hold all my VeChain on, at least in the Power Piggy, but I know they do trades. KuCoin, I also have KuCoin. KuCoin is a fairly good exchange. I think that they're stopping Ontario users in December though. Yeah, so rip to that. But I probably recommend Bitrue out of all these. Bitrue is the one that I use and the one that I'm most aware of. Now ask how many people in the world use technology. Yeah, that's a good point, right? You will never elude AI. Yeah, there's a lot of things about that. I'm not quite sure what you mean by AI, but there's a lot of, like we were talking about tech stocks earlier actually, and how certain tech stocks will probably do well and certain tech stocks are probably in a bit of a bubble. I saw it at 14 cents last night, but it recovered really quick. Yeah, for Harmony 1, definitely. I was only watching a couple. I was obviously watching way more of Bitcoin, but I'll have a clip of reaction to Bitcoin drop last night. Oh, you were live streaming last night during the drop. I'll have to watch that clip. That's hilarious. That is pretty funny. I'll check that out. I'm not even sure if I'm subscribed to your YouTube, so I gotta figure that out, because I knew that you were saying that you're starting it, but I know I guess he's Crypto Heck now that started it. Hold on. Oh yeah, I see your live stream. I'm excited to see your reaction. So we'll see. I'd say last night, in terms of like my reaction, I don't know. I don't get phased by this kind of stuff. I really don't. I don't know if it's like my entry point to the market or anything like that. I'm not sure. I look at things like this and I think about it very logically. Okay, we got rejected, we're going down. And that's just what it was. We held very hard at 52,000. I thought we were going to hold at 52,000. And we clearly didn't. Within a minute of me tweeting, because I tweeted, where's the YouTube? Hold on. Where's the YouTube community thing? So on the community, because I put out a thing. Let's open this up here. So I put out a here we go. I put out this and I said, technically speaking, Bitcoin is still in an uptrend, right? Technically speaking. About 2 minutes after I posted this is when Bitcoin dropped down below these numbers. So yeah, pretty brutal there. CoinMarketCap had an error showing Bitcoin as 42K, and moment that's when minor panic. Yeah, and like a lot of that could be FUD too, organized. We see pretty serious pretty serious wicks on certain exchanges. Like you'll see some pretty serious wick downs on like things like Kraken, I think, as one of the nastiest wicks that are usually out there. Yep, all I did was look at Satama and was like, shit, oh well, it will recover. I think Satama is probably going to recover and do fairly well. I think the hype is probably going to be growing for Satama through everything. But like really, like could we see, bad times for the next couple weeks? I mean, it's possible, right? Again, I'm not going to be hopeful for December right now. This to me is bearish for December. So what most likely we'll see is a consolidation, maybe some more downturns in December. We'll see how we are by the end of the year. But again, I'm not too concerned because I'm expecting things to go back up. Yeah, CoinMarketCap screw up again. I mean, like, yeah, is that, it's almost as synonymous as Coinbase. Coinbase? No. What's yeah, is it Coinbase? What's the shitty exchange that people use? I haven't even used it in so long. I think it's Coinbase. But yeah, anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's just like all those other ones that typically go down and crash when there's high volatility. They can't handle the markets. But a lot of exchanges and a lot of dexes were crazy last night. Like when I was trying to buy Solana, the Solana network was super clogged up. I'm gonna look on my PSwap today, and actually I'll pull that up for you guys today. Now I don't have the updates, right? But we'll see the before and after here. But let me pull this up. So how liquidity pairs work is essentially I get the trading fees for any time somebody buys or sells within the trading pair, right? Now, what happens on big volatility days is you get an influx of fees. So if you're providing liquidity on dexes, you'll get an influx of fees. So bear with me here. Let me. I don't want to add a node. It's just here. There we go. So if I go to rewards. Okay, so we have 3,027, and over the last couple of days, this has gone higher and higher and higher on the daily aspect. I don't claim it every day. Coinbase. Okay, perfect. Yeah, Coinbase always goes down. So right now I have 3,000 PSwap tokens here as my fee rewards. Right, these are just my trading fees, not my vested rewards or anything else. I guarantee you this is going to shoot up by tomorrow. It's going to be like 3,100 or 3,200. And the reason being is because I'm going to get my rewards later on today. And that reward is going to come from last night's trading. So whatever I get paid tomorrow in PSwap is going to be representative of how bad everything dropped by yesterday, right? So one, this shows you, hey, I hold pretty well, especially in things like this. And there's still opportunities to make money, especially if you're bullish on cryptocurrency. Because if you remember, Bitcoin might be worth $48,000 right now, but one Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin. That's it. One Ethereum is worth one Ethereum. One PSwap is worth one PSwap. One dot is worth one dot. So at the end of the day, the price can go down, but your crypto has never gone down. So if you're earning on cryptocurrency, if you're earning interest in cryptocurrency, why are you worried, right? You're here for the long term. You're here for the long haul. This is not a game that is just going to be over 4 years, and every 4 years we're going to have these big pumps, and everyone's going to get rich, and then it's going to drop again, and everyone's going to time the market just perfectly. If you believe that, then I got a bridge to sell you, because that's not the reality. That's not what's going to happen here. This is a game that takes money from people that are impatient and puts it into the hands of the patient. That's how this works. It's how investments have worked, and these are how these markets are going to work. So I'll top it off with this sentiment. Am I worried about cryptocurrency? No, I'm not, and you shouldn't be either. Yep, that's how I look at it. Exactly. Well, we will wrap it up. Thank you very much for showing up today, guys. Obviously, today or last night was pretty crazy. I don't think I actually went to bed until like 2:30, 2 or 3, something like that. I wasn't freaking out last night. I just figured I needed to be awake. That way I knew what was happening and prepare myself for today's live stream and also tweet out. So definitely help me out. Follow me on Twitter at Haas Hodls. Really helps out there. I'm going to start bringing out some other social media platforms through the December months. Or the December month. I'm going to be doing some revamp, definitely some background changes, scenery changes and everything else for the channel. Probably do some other videos and just TA, probably go into like top altcoin picks, top metaverse picks, that kind of thing. So if you guys have suggestions for anything like that, definitely send it, either post it on a comment or anything. I'll be reopening my Discord as well in the next couple of weeks. But for that, I'm going to keep it as invite only, being you have to DM me to get an invite. Mainly because I just got hundreds of bots joining on a day, so I can't have a public invite out. I have to bring everyone in case by case basis. There'll be no like hold up, like if you want in, just DM me. As soon as I get the message, I will send you a 24-hour link to join, and that's it. There's no requirement to join. I just want to be that person to hold off any bots coming in and spamming you guys in the Discord. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it. And yeah, again, have a good weekend. Don't stress this out. Go enjoy your time. It's holiday season. So definitely don't let this stress you out. All right, everyone.